So I am expectant because I know when I speak this, there is always healing. There is always breakthrough. And there is always freedom that people walk out with. In 2015, I was healed of Lyme disease that we believe I had had for over 50 years. Lyme disease you catch through being bitten by a tick, and ticks carry bacteria and parasites, and when they bite you, those bacteria, those parasites get into your system, and it can get into any of the systems of the body. That's why people with Lyme disease can often have a variety of symptoms, and not every person presents the same way. And so as a result of that, having grown up and then coming into adulthood with a variety of symptoms that could not be quite worked out as to what was happening, I was never diagnosed with Lyme disease because we supposedly don't have Lyme disease in Australia, and therefore you don't get tested for Lyme disease in Australia. And it was in 2013 we were over here, and my daughter said, "Mum, I've got this kit. All you need to do is go down and I'll take you down. You need to just get some blood taken. I've talked to my doctor." I think the variety of symptoms that have never really been clearly diagnosed for you, or you've had this diagnosis or that diagnosis, but it's never really been conclusive. She said, "I think you could have Lyme disease. I've talked to my doctor about it. He's given me this kit that all we have to do is go down, have some blood taken, and then the results will get sent back to my doctor and we can find that out. And I think it may be the breakthrough that you need." And my response to that was, "No, I'm not really interested. How many vials of blood have I had taken over my lifetime? I don't need any more blood taken," to only find out once more that this is an uncertain result and we're not quite sure. However, towards the end of that 4 weeks before we returned to Sydney, David and Joelle both prevailed long enough that to keep them quiet, I said, "Okay, I will go down and get some more blood taken." And we went back to Australia, and a few weeks later she called me and said, "Your results have come back, and it is conclusively, both through the pathology lab and through the CDC testing, that you have Lyme disease. It cannot, even in Australia, be contended because the CDC result would actually stand firm." But at this point in time, it was okay. I now need to, in a country that doesn't really believe that there is Lyme disease, find a doctor. So in end of 2013, beginning of 2014, I found a doctor. We do have a few doctors in Australia, and so as I met with the doctor, he said to me, he said, "You've had this a long time." He said, We're going to have to, the only way for us to deal with this is to put you on drugs that are quite strong, that are drugs that are going to be somewhat debilitating for you. When we start treating Lyme disease, it actually does two things. It will flare up all your Lyme symptoms, and sometimes some symptoms are worse at different times. He said it will flare up most of those symptoms. He said we will gradually build you up on the medications that you will need to be on, and then we'll need to give you other things to kind of compensate for what we're giving you. I was at that point in time taking 46 tablets a day. I had 2 prescriptions just recently given from the doctor that I was supposed to be building up, which I was not doing successfully because I was just too sick to be able to do it. I was also always expectant for healing. And in the lead up to this time, over a number of years really, I'd had prayer from Bill Johnson and Heidi Baker and Randy Clark and those that were there that time, and just totally blessed by their prayers. But I was still at that point quite sick, full of hope, because I had the presence of Jesus. So I ended up it was part of also of my prayer was, God, just give me the strength to be able to get to these meetings, because I really wanted to do that. On the Thursday night of the Leaders Advance, Bill Johnson was speaking. And so that night, when it came to time to pray for the sick, there was, as you can imagine, a word of knowledge for arthritis in the knee, and I actually stood for that because I had arthritis in the knee. That was one of the complications, and and effects that I'd had actually from the Lyme disease. And so I stood for that. And all the pain in my knee had gone, and I was moving, and Bill was just standing in front of me. I was sitting in the front, and Bill Johnson was just standing there, and I said, and he was looking, and I said, all that pain is gone. All the, I can move it. I've got it. It's just feeling really great. And he just looked at me and he said, if God can heal your knee of arthritis, he can heal your Lyme disease. Immediately I'm back in my seat and I feel Jesus next to me, and I start to feel his hands around different parts, starting from my feet up, kind of in touching different areas of my body. And I felt him come and touch an area around my head. I always had a pressure, and I felt him touch this area, and I felt not only pain go, but that pressure, probably for one of the first time in my life, just absolutely lift off. And it was like, whoa, what is this? What normal people? I mean, I don't meaning I'm abnormal, but I'm meaning, is this what is normal, that you don't have that? And then I saw him by my side, and I just feel him pulling out this black gunk, and I knew that the Lyme disease had gone. And then the last vision was just very simple. It was a young child. I knew it was myself running in the field, and I felt like God say, I'm a God of restoration. Where the enemy has come in and robbed and tried to kill off and destroy stuff, I am your God of restoration, and I will restore above and beyond that which the enemy robbed. And that was significant for me. And I went to the doctor in that 2 weeks, so off most of the heavy drugs by that time. And you're always with that doctor, you have to write out an email to him of what your current symptoms are. And so I had said that everything had gone. And I'm walking into his office, and he said to me, what's this I'm reading? He said, the hairs on my arms, everything, it's all, I'm getting this reaction. What's happening? What's going on with you? And so I hadn't prepared what I would say. I just shared with him what had happened. He kept asking for more and more questions. And finally he said, this is a story of hope, isn't it? He said, in the Lyme community, there is so much hopelessness, and yours is a story of hope. He's actually still telling my story, I've told, because there are people that I know that go to that clinic. As he said, it's a story that will give people hope to know that there is a breakthrough possible. And as he said to me, he said, what we find when people go off all their medications for the first 5 days, they will feel better. And then all the symptoms come back with a vengeance. He said, you being 14 days out and no symptoms, and he went through everything with me. And so we went through it all, and he spoke out and has told other people, you are healed of Lyme disease. You are healed of Lyme. One thing I know, when I was healed of Lyme disease, I did not feel more loved at that moment than I did in all the years prior, because I discovered the outpouring of his love that is not dependent upon circumstances or events. And so, God, I just pray right now, the God of hope, for you to fill each person. I just say to those impossible situations that with you, God, they become possible. May we not be holding back and waiting. May we take your hand, and together at your pace and at your leading and at your guidance, step into that which in the natural looks impossible, but at your word becomes incredibly possible.